Hi guys, and welcome back to another Sean the Buffalo PTCGO video. Hope you've all been well. And today we are doing a recap of the Players Cup 3 events that is still ongoing for a lot of players. I myself have finished it, used all my 50 keys to a total of 109 points, which considering my last finish was only at 86 points in the Players Cup 2, I'd like to think that I've most certainly qualified this time, and this time I will be checking my emails. I'm not leaving it in the junk like you may have heard that I did in the last couple of videos. That was one of my downfalls, to not getting into the Players Cup 2. So I'm going to do a quick show of the main 3 decks that I used during the Players Cup 3, and then I will do one single gameplay video for each of the said decks. So I'm also going to do it in the order of which deck got me the least amount of points to the deck that got me the most amount of points. So in third place, as you can see here on the screen, is Pikarom. So Pikarom obviously made the Players Cup 2 champion. It got first place in Players Cup 2, that is, and my build is very similar to that. All I had in mind in this build was that because the events harbour so little amount of players, that it's less likely that you'd run in Statigoons, and therefore I took out the Vikavolt that was played in the Players Cup 2 champion list, and I also kept it pretty much to its original build. I know a lot of builds have been playing 3 Boltund. I still like 2. I think 2 is the perfect number because after your second one, any more than that becomes dead, and that's why I stuck with this. One thing I will mention to my viewers, that if you're struggling in the Players Cup 3, as I know a lot of people have been doing, why not try a little bit of meta manipulation? Now, what I mean by this is by playing one deck that you plan on playing in an event for at least 12 games on the ladder, and when you've came to a point where you've established that exactly the same deck that you're playing is also being played on the ladder, that's why I say it'll probably take more than 12 games, you will then be ascertained in your own mind that because more than one copy of your deck that you're running is on the ladder, a lot of people whose best matchup is your deck will no longer think, oh well, it's not going to be in the event if so much of it's being played on the ladder, we'll play something else. And then you take on this deck into an event. It's not entirely meta manipulation, but it's just a point into people's heads that, oh, you're just doing ladder grinding, but actually you're just warming up to go into an event, and also you're trying to make it seem to other players that that deck is not going to be played in an event, so therefore there's no point in them playing the best matchup against it. So a fine example here would be that if people seeing this so much on the ladder, you're very less likely to go into a Players Cup event and run into, for example, Colossal VMAX or Sandaconda Colossal or any fighting deck per se, basically, because they're the only decks that realistically have such a good matchup against this. I think the Welder Mewtwo box has a good matchup against this, but that deck is very seldomly near seen played, so it's very rarely played basically. So this is the one that got me the third amount of points, and there is only 3 decks that I realistically played in the Players Cup. So I will now go on to the deck number 2. So deck number 2 is our big boy snake, Centiskorch VMAX, and originally I wasn't playing the Scoop Up Pals, but after seeing the level of success that it got, and for very good reason, I started to play this build a little bit differently than the builds that I've been seeing online. I think the person that had piloted the most points out of this deck was Adam Szymanski, if I pronounced that right, I hope I have. And he piloted primarily this deck to like 148 points, which is a hell of a lot. And I was like, do you know what, I clearly my Centiskorch list is outdated. I wasn't even playing the Senti Valley list either. I was playing more of an attempt at a pure consistency build, as you'll have seen on one of my other videos. But this build is so much better because having access to the Giratina is amazing, because Luke Metal is still, for whatever known reason, is still running about rampant. especially in the Players' Cup events, I seen anyway, especially after a couple of horrible losses with the deck that actually is my first on this list. So this deck has an amazing matchup against that Luke Metal, and yeah, the Giratina goes such a long way, and the switch and scoop up nets as well just help you, after you've done your Flare starter, get straight into your Sense Scorch, even if you have to use a scoop up net on a Volcanion, which is obviously, it's not the most, it's not the best value that you can get out of the scoop up net in this deck, as opposed to either scoop up net in either Giratina, Jirachi or Zigzagoon, but if needs must and wants sort of thing. So all I can say about this deck is that I wasn't particularly a fan of the Mallow and Lana. I never really found myself playing it much, and if you wanted to play, for example, a third bot over the Mallow and Lana to make it slightly more aggressive, then, you know, be my guest. I don't think that net decking is always a good thing. This is why this exact build is not a copy of Adam Schmancy's list, for example. I'm pretty sure his build ran Cramorant and Heatran and didn't run Rashizards at all. However, the Rashizard in my build gave me literally about 10 donks perhaps in regards to different events. Not all obviously in the same event, that doesn't make sense, but over 10 keys that I might have used with this build that I settled on. It must have got me at least 10 donks. That's a donk per event, because it's criminally insane that you can literally just quick ball for the Charizard, go welded double attach your last Fire Energy, scoop up net or switch out of the active and take a KO on Boltons, or with the extra 10 damage from the Zigzagoons you can ping away many other things. You can also donk Zacian Bees, Luke Metals, roll it on an Exeggutor, as I did quite a lot of times, that card got donked. There were a few other Pokemon, Crobat for example, Dedenne. You can donk so much with the Double Blaze GX that's why I play this, because it is criminal how quick you can get that off. And I'll be right back for the deck that got me the most points. So this is the deck that got me the most points, our other big boy snake, Mr. Eternatus VMAX himself. Now, being able to hit damage output of 270 for 2 energy is absolutely insane. The fact that it has a built-in energy accelerator as well, which basically is counterproductive to every build that is currently playing Crushing Hammers, the fact that you can accelerate energy and they have to hope to hit at least 2 Crushing Hammers to be able to set back your turn of power acceleration. I always, with this deck, go second, because power acceleration is basically anti-Crushing Hammers, or an attempt at anti-Crushing Hammers, to make sure that you can still attack with a VMAX next turn. Whilst in the meantime, also, Crushing Hammers in any deck would mean that you'd always want to go second anyway, because you're trying to make as much as possible your opponent's turn null and void. So, because you could play Crushing Hammers in this build, that's why it's always better to go second. In the deck that won me the most games, and I've only switched to this just for my last 2 before last keys that I played. I didn't do videos on them, unfortunately, but the count was more like this, where I'd only played 2... Why has that happened? 2 Zigzagoon, and let's just change that there quickly. It was 2 Zigzagoon and 2 of the Yveltal. So that was my list, and it was more like that throughout the tournament. The Spiritombs are the best thing about this deck, really. And I know you could just play why not just play a straight up Spiritomb deck? No, because Spiritomb makes the fact that if you're set behind a turn, you can just deal some quick, easy, and more precisely, economic and powerful damage and high output damage for a single energy off a single prize card attacker, whilst keeping your VMAX on the bench and being able to power accelerate in the next turn, for example, if you need to claw your way back from Crushing Hammers and Yell Grunts and such. I also cut a single copy of Research for a copy of Birdkeeper, because I seen that there was a surgence of control decks bopping about the format, and I was just like, no one's happy about that. Basically, no one's happy about that. So having a surprise Birdkeeper up your sleeve, it caught so many people off guard, and in fact, it won me so many of my Pikarom games as well. The one off Birdkeeper, because it's like Stamp to 3 Tandem Shock is like their best play basically, and when you've got a surprise Birdkeeper in the deck plus the switches, then it just makes it that much harder for them. And the fact that you can switch and draw cards out of Tandem Shock makes it even more better. Well, it makes it even better than just playing Switch. In that instance, which obviously, because Pikarom won Players Cup 2, there is, because of that, of course, a lot of Pikarom were running about, and that was my decision behind running the Birdkeeper, as well as the control decks, of course. Now, there are cards that are like quite a nuisance, and like Metal Goggles is one of them, and it's also the reason why we play 2 Dangerous Drill as well. But between 4 Crushing Hammers and 2 Dangerous Drill, it basically makes the Pikarom matchup just absolutely smooth, unless you dead draw, of course, which happened to me so many times. I lost 8 of my keys due to ridiculously bad RNG, and I thought by the 3rd time, and you could show I was showing myself that I was a gambling person at this point. It took me a lot to put my game down, but on the 3rd game of bad RNG and losing my 3rd key, I thought it can't be worse than this. So I went for my 4th game, and lo and behold, it was. And my 5th tournament, and I was just like, it can't just keep giving me this bad RNG. By the 8th key that I'd lost in the 1st round, I was just like, I'm just giving up, because honestly, you've never seen hands like it. I'm surprised I even got 109 points. And not only were they bad hands, but I was just getting donked as well. Like, I wasn't finding a second Pokemon or anything, and my opponent would literally, with the Rashazard that I mentioned in my Centiskorch video just then, that they just have the straight up double blaze with like Zigzagoon and a Vitality Band or Zigzagoon Scoop up there, and it was unreal. So if you find yourself, this is again more advice to people that are still playing in the Players Cup. If you find yourself 2 to 3 keys deep in bad RNG, don't carry on. Just turn it off for the night, recuperate your thoughts, wake up on the right side of the bed, play a lot of matches the next day on the ladder, make sure you're thoroughly warmed up, and then go into the event. Don't go into an event just blindfolded. Sort of check what the meta like is for the day on the ladder. The same with the meta manipulation that I was talking about before. That's what you want to do. So anyway, in order again, it was Pikarom, Centiskorch, and Eternatus that were my top 3 decks for the Players Cup. And I will be right back with some gameplay. So we are here for the game with the Pikarom deck, which got me the 3rd most amount of points, and we do have a dead hand despite going second. So a top deck of any sort: Supporter, Quick Ball, Cherish Ball, Electromagnetic Radar, Supporter, Dedenne, Crobat. Any of those cards would be great here. So we have so many outs to being able to achieve a good hand, and it does seem we're against some sort of electric deck. I would assume Pikachu VMAX. So can Chunky Chew defeat Little Chew and Zekrom? And realistically, we do not mind benching the Pikarom if we do find it in this matchup, because we don't play any big charms in my build, which means that due to this deck having a damage output of 270, that it doesn't matter if we attack with Pikarom or not, because regardless, all of our Pokemon do get KO'd by the VMAX. So that's Tails. Well, we've got a game at least. We are losing 2 switches, which isn't brilliant. We do get maximum value out of the Tool Scrapper, which is good. losing 2 switches, not good, but I'm not really too fussed about it. We've got 2 lightning energies in the discard already, so not the end of the world. Another crushing hammer as well, and even a Marnie to go with it. So we're gonna stick this here, I think, because the likelihood of him having the Electrode and the boss and the VMAX next turn were relatively slim, so we don't mind doing these things. I can also just go for the Coco now and put it down. I don't know if I want to use it yet. I think I will, because I've grabbed it now, so it would have been better to hold the Quick Ball in that instance. And we will just stick these bad boys here and here. So, switching to this will definitely mean that we're going to be getting KOs here, or should mean by any means. He needs a combination of Electrode and the VMAX, which isn't too hard to get considering it's just a detonated, but judging by the pause in how long he's taken to do anything here, he's only found one or the other, and he's figuring out which one to grab first before playing a potential Professor's Research. Or even potentially Marnie, although I don't know why anyone would ever Marnie someone with a 2-card hand. He can always just Thunderbolt here as well, of course. So that would lead me to think that he's playing a Rose build of some sort. And I can't remember if I play more than one Chaotic Swell. Tag Switch is a wonderful prize there. And there's the Professor's Research. Discarding even more energy. And he has room for Crushing Hammers in this deck, but apparently does not have room to find himself yet another, well, a VMAX. Although in this instance, it would primarily just be better to Thunderbolt. Like, there'd be no reason. I don't know why he's retreated to that. And I think I want a Marnie right here. We'll put this here, put another one of these down, and we will just Marnie. I want to find the boss's orders, which we don't find, still. Cheers, deck. And I think the correct play here is also Electrify to the Boltons. Which we are going to do. So because we have the tag switching deck, we have like our energy spread out enough. He now needs to find switch and boss. And that would definitely lead me to think that he is playing Rose. So, how many energy is he down? At this point, he's already down 4 energy, so may as well just remove one off here. Put this to the bottom of the deck, as we already have one in play. Do need to find our Raichu and Alolan Raichu, of course. We can... Just trying to think of the right course of action. I think using a basic energy switch here to just be able to electrify one last time is fine. How many energy do we have in deck first? We only have 1 in deck. So... we will, of course, move it to here from this one. Again, keeping the energy spread out as much as possible. And we will just simply electrify onto this guy. So there's the use of his Koko. We really needed to find a boss's orders. And for whatever reason, for however slow I've played this, I've given my opponent far too much time to set up in the team. Do we see yet another Dedenne from my opponent here? No, we see a Pikachu and Zekrom. Just to research it away, which is understandable. I would assume my opponent plays switches of some sort. He does play 2 switches and 1 air balloon, at least. My opponent choosing what is going to Crushing Hammer here. Finally finds himself the switch. And only does that amount of damage. So that's his 3rd switch down. And we are just going to use a boss's orders just to bring this in. And see what's left in deck. Plenty of resources. But our prizes were pretty abysmal. So now we just need to find another air balloon or his 4th switch, assuming he plays either. So my opponent's probably very hesitant to Marnie me. I imagine is the thought process that's going through his head. And yeah. He obviously figures that he has to Marnie me to pull off the attack, which is oh so true. Does he find his switch? Again, with the pause that he's taken, it doesn't seem likely, but we'll see. And we've only seen 1 boss's orders from my opponent so far as well. So, what to do? I hardly want to be taking an attack, and I'm not in any rush to either. I'm literally just going to switch into the Dedenne and pass. Now my opponent needs to find switch and boss, which I am totally fine with. So, it's a case of slow and steady wins the race. I know this is quite the boring game, but every action that I've taken is very methodical in what is the best path to victory in the instance of what cards have been given in what order, and I know the sequencing may not have been entirely great. I've never really been much of a Pikarom fan, and is part of the reason why it gave me the least amount of wins. Now, my opponent has a total of 8 plus 6 cards in his hand. That's 14 cards in deck. So there is absolutely 0 point to doing any play other than pass. If his last switch and his last air balloon is prized, then unlucky for him. There's an energy. And does he have another energy switch? Which he does not. If he attaches another energy here, then I will just Boss's Orders this in, well, after he's retreated, and see if he got the switch or the air balloon off the prizes, and if he did, then so be it. But like I say, it is more, makes more sense just to force another energy attachment here. He's got 7 in play and 2 in the bin, discounting what he may or may not have prized, and he's used his Coco. So that's his 4th switch. And there's the boss. Onto that for some reason. That doesn't make much sense to me. Because this thing is stuck active. He's down all 4 switch, and it's got a Vitality Band on it. So I mean, I don't really see what my opponent could do. Apart from play roses, of course. If he plays a rose, what's the worst that can happen? If he plays a rose, what's the worst that would happen? It's hard to know. Gonna go here. He'll need rose. Rose only charges up 2 anyway, doesn't it? Let's have a look. Charges 2 basic energies, yeah. So we need a rose and a tower. He's down 2 towers already. I think we just push another Dedenne into the active, because he can't rose and boss anyway, so. Again, it's all about just figuring out what is the best way to victory here. And I think we're just going to press done. Because if he does use a rose here to take this knockout, he will discard 8 of the total of 13 cards that he has access to. At this point, we're not even particularly fussed about the Crushing Hammers. And now he's just drawing more cards as well, so if he does plant a rose, then I can simply Marnie and win the game, because it'll win me the game by a deck out. This does also have 2 retreat cost. So there's the Rose Tower, Tool Scrapper. Okay. Does he play any other cards? So he's thinning out more cards, and if he puts himself in a position where there's only 1 card left in his hand, there's the rose, which means that we will basically be able to deck my opponent out. And that's fine by me. I know this seems like the the least exciting game that any of you will ever seen be played with this deck. But these are the things that happen. So, I mean, we'll play this here, because if we can deny this energy as well, we'll get rid of these two. We will Crushing Hammer and take off this. Again, doesn't really matter. And we will use Marnie to make him draw more cards. And if we had a one prizer, the game would definitely be sealed. But basically, he needs another rose, and whether or not he plays it is unknown. So I think move it to 2NG. We can Tingly return GX anyway. And I know how many of you will be so mad to see this. So we'll move this and this onto here. But Tingly GX, Tingly return GX may possibly win us the game. How funny is that? We will see. He has to draw his last card. What do we put? do we put you have a good deck? Because even if he Marnies, he decks out. And methodical gameplay wins the day. Anyone can have a tier 1 deck, but not everyone can pilot a tier 1 deck. So it's as simple as I'm just going to Static Shock him for the lols because I can. I literally inflicted an entirety of 100 damage in that game to win that, and as a as a reward for you guys viewing the most boring match ever, which I'm very sorry about, the most boring version of most boring match of Pikarom anyway, there is a code for my viewers. So hope you enjoyed that, and we'll be right back with the Centiskorch video. So we are back with our Centiskorch match, and we do unfortunately give my opponent a mulligan, an opponent who has absolutely lovely sleeves, Garchomp sleeves. I would love to own a set of these. And we do not have an incredible hand, in all honesty. I mean, it's not the end of the world either as far as these things go, but if my opponent doesn't get another basic down, which of course he will do with the Cherish Ball, as the Arceus Starlight Palkia, the Mawile would be upsetting here, but I mean, people tend to blind Mawile for no reason, so it's just one of them things. It's one of the advantages that ATP has, that you can just blind Mawile for no reason. People choose Mawile over Zacian V sometimes, which is just the stupidest thing that I ever come across. So we're going to attempt to get maximum value out of our Welder. So we're just going to put this back and find our Volcanion, and then we're going to quick ball away our Malawan Lana for a what do I want to get? For a Zigzagoon, seems good, I suppose. And then we will drop it there, it's just so we have it in play. We will attach here because we'll be weldering to the active if we do find a giant hearth or indeed 2 fire energies, which we do find the 2 fire energies. We are going to giant hearth away the Jirachi for the 2 fires, and we will have a extremely buff turn 2 Sensei Boy. So could we knock out my opponent? Like, is there an instance where he could find Air Balloon, discard triple energy, Metal Source and Warlord, discard double 2 energy? You know, if it happens, it happens. I'm not going to reset stamp my opponent down to 6 by a 1 card. There is literally 0 points in that. So we will just Flare Starter and buff out our Center Scorch. And the thing is that this could potentially be a hand of a bunch of Crushing Hammers and all sorts of jazz. And here we're doing 240, so we do need the extra energy to be able to hit this with 280. And that is a very unfortunate Marnie, but thankfully we have both of, if I've seen correctly, both of our Dedennes in deck. So the most unfortunate of Marnies, of course, a very, very difficult Marnie indeed to deal with. So we will not be needing this. And it is indeed time to get this bad boy out. We'll stick this down because he may try and boss trap it, and obviously we already know that we've got the switch in hand. So get rid of the Zacian. Find a Center Scorch VMAX off the prizes and the other boss. So all is well. It needs energy and boss here to obviously take this out. And we're just seeing Ultimate Ray, so it does seem like I'd made the correct choice to boss in that Zacian and take it out, obviously, because my opponent gets only 2 prizes off this either way. And now I'm just stuck with a hench boy, a very, very hench boy in the active. And so we're not going to use any of these 3 cards. There is 0 points to that. We are literally, I'm pretty sure. Let's just think. So 120, 160, 200, 240, 280. That is most certainly enough. And we also have fire energies to attach from the discard, so we have no fear of. In fact, at this point, we're not even going to need boss either. So there's no point in having boss because we have a phenomenal attacker. And there may not even be any point in having Fire Crystal either, but we're going to keep Fire Crystal around just for any potential welder players that we may need to achieve. So this demonstration is one of the decks that I was hoping to go against. We had 2 Center Scorch VMAXs prized. I'm surprised we even found 1. So this is a very good demonstration of why everyone that was calling for ADP to be banned is not looking at the deck in the right way. The only thing that ADP does is it does defeat the game being a game in a sense, because it doesn't allow decks to flourish. It doesn't allow, and as the concession, it doesn't allow for, you know, 1 prizes to flourish, because most 1 prizes don't have enough speed or consistency to keep up with ADP. And obviously Alter Creation does ruin that entirely. So so that's it for the Center Scorch, and we'll be right back with the alternatives. Now it's time to see if my deck that earns me the most points will let me down. We have immediately lost the coin flip, and because I forgot to give it out last game, here is yet another code for my viewers, and hopefully that will focus, or hopefully you'll have been able to see that, which is all I can hope for, really. So we will obviously start with the Yveltal, the best starter in the deck, which is the fact that it has free retreat. And we're against Moist Mewtwo. Now, this is an extremely bad matchup for Eternatus as a whole, if I'm perfectly honest. We need a combination of Spiritomb off the boss, off the Great Ball, sorry. Attach energy to it, use boss, Crobat, and potentially find ourselves a, well, there's Spiritomb, but we will not be able to boss and take this out, unfortunately. I mean, yeah, it's not even worth trying. We'll put back down both of these and draw for 2, unfortunately. And yeah, it's just going to have to be a loss of a lot of supporters, because we need to find ourselves yet another Eternatus with this attachment to be able to keep up. That is the unfortunate thing about it. I mean, realistically, I could even Marnie, but there is no point in doing that. It's literally better just to get the chip damage in whilst I can. There's the Eternatus. We've got plenty good hand to find VMAX and a whole bunch of shenanigans next turn. So even if he does knock out this active, which is very likely, I don't think Moist Mewtwo has space for Crushing Hammers. If it has Crushing Hammers and it hits any of them, this matchup is definitely an auto loss. And again, we have one more code for our viewers. With any luck. There we go. The focus. The KO can. So that's his 3 codes given out in this video. Hope all my viewers do enjoy them, and if you ever pull anything good, hit me up in the comments and let me know. It's always nice to know that the codes that I provide for my viewers do go a long way to helping you acquire the cards that you want, or even if you just get a good card out of them and manage to trade it for the cards that you want, that's all I could ever ask for for my viewers. So, going back to the game at hand, we have Pokecomp for VMAX. We have Quick Ball away top deck for Crobat, and then we have the research as well, although obviously potentially I'd love to go for a Marnie. I started playing, as well as I forgot to mention it in my deck list, I started playing a single copy of Chaotic Swell because one of the biggest nightmares for this deck is Wondrous Labyrinth. Wondrous Labyrinth poses a problem to Eternatus like you won't believe, because the whole point of the deck is that it's such high damage output for so minimal energy cost, and then Wondrous Labyrinth just comes along like a leggy and just throws an absolute wrench in your plans. So a single copy of Chaotic Swell with all the draw support that this deck can provide and all the Pokemon Search which provides draw support is all you could realistically ever need. So away with the Spiritomb. We do of course also need to find an energy here. So straight into the VMAX. And because of the size of my opponent's hand, I mean, actually, 2 of them are just water energy. And we'll build in Spite, obviously. That's losing even more supporters. But it's not the end of the world, because we do have the other Eternatus right here. So we will just grab a Crobat. Didn't need to, necessarily, but... And this is all I wanted. And that right there is the 240, and there's the concession. So that's why you don't mana your opponent. As long as you keep a track on what they play, and you place it, damaging the tag teams, and then not maxing out your bench and falling into the Keldeo trap, as you'll have seen, then that's how you win that matchup. So thank you all for watching, and I will be right back in a sec. So I hope you've all enjoyed this Players Cup 3 recap, and here is my baby right here that earns me the most points. The inclusion of the Chaotic Swell was actually massive and helped so much in the last 5 of my keys, and it was the last 5 of my keys that I probably earned the most points in a row. Primarily with this deck. I think one time I used Centiskorch, but that's that. So anyway, thank you all for watching. Hope you all get something good out of the codes, and if you do, again, drop me a comment down below. That would be greatly appreciated. If you did enjoy the video, please drop a like. It really helps me out as a content creator, and if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, please do that now, and click the little bell to keep up to date with my upcoming content. I've been Sean the Bufflon, and hope you've all enjoyed watching. Peace out, guys.